Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Race Course, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Also brought to you by Wizard Race and Sports.
Good morning. Welcome to Racing Across America. Again, live from our Clare Court set on another gorgeous Saratoga morning. I will knock wood, though, that this holds out throughout the day because it was gorgeous here yesterday, too, until a crazy storm dropped the deluge on and then was gone. But it looks like it's going to be a nice day today. Again, turf racing, 7 and 11 are off the turf. The other turf races are on today, so keep that in mind for the remainder of the day. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Mike NcAdams, racing writer for the Daily Gazette. He was bouncing around this morning, checking out workouts. We'll get some info on that and more. A little bit after that, Keith McCalmont. Keith, of course, press office here at the New York Racing Association. But we originally met Keith up at Woodbine when he was working up there. So I said, Keith, come on in, give us some insights on tomorrow's King's Plate as a Canadian. And we'll talk that and some Saratoga racing with Keith as well. But we're going to start out delayed, but happy to have him drop in today. Horacio De Paz, a nice stakes win a couple of days ago. Went down to the winner's circle. I said, come on over. And then yesterday we were scheduled, but a little conflict. Happy to have Horacio this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you were working a horse. You were schooling over in the paddock. You said you brought the horse over with a pony, which you were riding. Talk a little bit about schooling. And as a fan, I always think, well, don't these horses get enough time in the paddock that they're used to it? But is it just a thing that like you want to make sure, but also I'm wondering up here it's so much different with the number of people.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the more times that you can school them, obviously the better it is for them. Sometimes taking them over, it kind of keeps them in a routine where they don't get too anxious in the paddock. And this particular filly, she schools next to we saddle her next to a pony. So yesterday we took our stable pony over there and it was, pretty easy to do.
Yeah. And again, I'm always curious with the schooling aspect of things, but I guess the more they get used to the various and here it's also a lot of the horses come in through that horse path where there's people on both sides. So I think it's a whole different atmosphere here than most of the other tracks.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's a lot, especially tomorrow on Saturday. Yeah. That's why when we had this scheduled, and I was like, oh, I can't really skip it. We really should school it. So that's what we ended up doing.
When you sat down and when I talked to you the other day, you're right back here, right? The barn right behind us here at Clare Court. How do you like being back here?
It's great. Yeah, it's good. It's a nice little atmosphere. It's a little nerve-wracking when you first come in with the 2-year-olds because they're not used to seeing so much activity.
Yeah.
But usually after a week, they settle in and they're pretty good.
Oh, I never thought of that because there are horses here every morning. And even some of the horses stabled over at Saratoga Harness walk through to get over if they're going to work at the So I never thought of that, looking out their stalls. And it's like, oh, wow.
We had a particular colt that when he came over from Belmont after the first day that he was here, he took out half his stall out, kicking the wall, because during the day he saw those horses coming from the harness track. So we had to move him to another spot.
That's interesting because I always think of this as I talk to trainers, you come back here and they always say, oh, yeah, it's kind of calming. It's a nice atmosphere. Well, it's the flip side, I guess, if you live here.
Yeah, and I got lucky because Mike Huston had this barn before. And when I first came, it was in 2000, he's like, just make sure you don't open the back windows the first week. I was like, okay. And he kind of gave me a heads up about it and just kind of gradually let them settle into being in the barn. So that was good help.
Give us a little bit of your background whenever we get people in. Like to introduce, we have new fans up here at Saratoga and always like to familiarize them with the faces and the players in the game. So give us a little background to how you got into the game.
I'm from West Texas and I always liked horses when I was little. And my father did some quarter horse match racing and got involved with that. And then from there, just followed the racetrack and went on to doing thoroughbreds.
Did you ever ride the quarter horses?
Yeah, I did quarter horse match races.
So you were in the match race. Is it literally a match race, one against another?
Yeah, it's just you bring your horse and we bring our horse. And, you just set a little pot and race.
Nice. And I'm guessing there was a little bit of gambling going on
sure.
on the side.
Yeah, definitely.
There's that whenever I get the Louisiana guys in, I was talking about the bush tracks down there. Similar situation over in Texas. And so you were an exercise rider as well, correct?
Yes. So then I went to exercise ride. Started out in Louisiana Downs, then went to Arkansas. Hooked up with Wayne Lucas there. We went to Churchill, and then that's the first year that I came to Saratoga as well. And when we went back, they had Breeders' Cup there at Churchill, and Todd had, I think he had like maybe 14 horses running or something. That was when it was one day of racing. And I was like, wow, that guy really knows what he's doing. So then I ended up hooking up with them that winter when they went out to Hollywood Park for the first time. And I stayed with Todd 5 years, and did one season breaking babies with his dad as well in between. So good foundation there.
Did you go out on your own? And was Sagamore your first client on your own?
Yes, I was working as an assistant for Ignacio Correas at Sagamore Farm, and when he went public, they gave me the opportunity, train off the farm, and then they did some rearranging of management and stuff, and then Stanley Huff came involved with consulting and stuff, and Hunter Rankin, and then they gave me the opportunity to start training, solely for Sagamore.
And they scaled back, obviously, so now you're out as essentially a public trainer.
Yes. And then I went public when they were scaling back. So,
nice meet so far at Saratoga, and we'll hit on some of the wins a little bit earlier. But I'm always curious: do you come up to Saratoga with a goal?
Yeah, always trying to run well. At least, obviously, debut 2-year-olds. Hopefully, that they run well, and that the older horses are able to compete here.
Yeah, and so far you have to be happy with the results so far.
Yeah, it's been a good meet. Yeah. Had a lot of seconds last year, but this year's it's gone pretty well.
What is your circuit for the year?
I usually go back to Belmont, and I'll have a string in Maryland and Belmont.
And I pulled up entries from Echo Basin. You're popping around at some various tracks.
Yeah, we ship around everywhere: Colonial, Delaware, Parks, and obviously Saratoga.
Do you stick around here, or do you bounce around as well?
I'll bounce around. I do most of the bouncing around like later in the year. Right now, it's kind of mostly Saratoga.
Yeah. Impressions of Saratoga when you were in the game, as you say, started the match races in Texas, then moved over to Louisiana as you came up here and experienced Saratoga. Your thoughts?
Oh, it's definitely a humble upbringing, obviously. So, and Saratoga's it's a great place to be.
As a trainer, I always say one of the things about Saratoga is how knowledgeable the fans are. So you get a nice win like you did the other day in the stake. We'll take a look at it in a minute. But the fans are always so appreciative, and that has to be an extra bonus.
It is
in the time you put into it.
Yeah, it is, because it's all the fans are involved. That's what I like about the town. You go out and you go to eat, and people are so involved in it. They're paying attention to it.
That's what I would say. You sit down for dinner, and the guy at the table next to you is talking about the daily double he had today. The triple he's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. I mentioned it a couple of days ago, the Susie O'Kane. You kind of had it surrounded. You had the slew of entries in there. I liked Awesome Check. We're going to take a look at the stretch run here. Awesome Check's going to be the number 6 horse. Gets it done. Gets it done pretty easily under Manny Franco. Give us some of your thoughts on the performance going back to Wednesday in Susie O'Kane with Awesome Check.
Yeah, she's been training very well. Last year in the Tepin, she ran second. I thought that was a very honest race on her part. And she's a filly that last year, early on, we thought she was going to be a dirt horse, and she was working very well on the dirt. And then we tried her, and her efforts were just not what we were seeing in the mornings. And when we put her on the turf at Aqueduct, she just, she really took a liking to it. And then we ended up the year very well. So I was very looking forward to her coming back, getting her career started. And this was a good spot.
That was your horse also, Red Burgundy. You took the big early lead. Mm-hmm. Looked like it'd be tough to run down, but it had some horses zip by in the stretch, including Awesome Check. And a state-bred stakes race, but I think I heard you say in the winner's circle that, the potential was there to move out into open company. And when you have a talented New York bred, you face some open company already with this horse, but that gives you plenty of options going forward.
It does, yeah. And she's a very sound filly, very kind filly, so I'm happy to ship her around. She's very low maintenance, so seems like she's very honest too. So
yeah,
give that a try.
That was a nice late run, nice performance. So now she's strung a couple together. At this point in the meet, will we see her again at the meet?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It is getting later.
Yeah.
Also wanted to pull up a few others that you've had so far at the meet and just kind of talk about various strategies and whatnot. We're going to go back to August 4th, take a look at You Gotta Have Hope, another Barry Schwartz owned horse, but this one a first-time starter by Twirling Candy. You Gotta Have Hope is going to be the number 8 horse here. Another pretty big winner. Talk about the performance. You always have to be happy when you get one debuts and wins, and what might be in the future for You Gotta Have Hope.
Yes, we worked her down at Belmont, and she showed to have some talent. One of the works that we did there, and we were just trying to kind of bring her along foundation-wise to her next race. And she's actually bred probably to like the turf more. So now we're in a spot where Santana actually had worked her out of the gate here at Saratoga. And after the workout, I asked him, you want to go dirt and turf? What do you think? And he said, she handled the dirt very well. So just get started there. But now moving forward, possibly going to attempt with putting her on the turf just to answer that question early on, because we always go to the dirt over the wintertime. We go back to Aqueduct. But very classy filly and very professional in that race. And Tana did a great job on getting her out of the gate, getting good position, and just got a great trip out of there.
That's interesting that you're thinking maybe turf, but the exercise rider said, hey, the dirt form is pretty good, and that's the decision. As a former exercise rider, I assume you rely on these guys. Do you ever get on the horses in the morning now?
Yeah, I still do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's got to be beneficial.
It is, yeah, it is.
And as I say, relying on the exercise riders' opinions to being a former exercise rider, I'm sure you respect what the guys are saying when they get off the horse.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Let's take a look at another one here. Going back to July 19th, Aunt Yola will be the winner. This one had come in with 4 career starts. We're still looking for a victory. Kendrick Carmouche on board. It's the number 8 horse, 24-1. You get a nice neck victory. When horses go off at prices like this, always curious, what were your expectations going in? And give us a little review of the performance here. Gets up, as they say, in a nice hard-fought battle, gets up by a neck.
Basically, we were just trying turf because, like I said, we had 4 starts, and the first 2 or 3 starts, like, she showed ability, but just got caught there at the wire. And then her last race kind of left us puzzled. And Kendrick actually had worked her back at Belmont, and just talking to him, asked him, what do you think we should do here? And he's like, I don't know. I think you got to try turf, just the way her action is. And there wasn't a lot of turf in her pedigree either. Similar to Awesome Check as well. Mendelssohn, they can go both ways, but being run happy, you didn't think that she would do turf. Maybe farther back down at some point you'll find some turf, but nothing that was sticking out. So we went ahead and entered, just as an experiment basically, but it was an experiment that went well. Most of the time you experiment, they go wrong. And because I had another filly in there that she was very logical, very honest filly as well. And she has a lot of speed. Bill Mott's filly had a lot of speed. So when they came out of the gate, I knew those 2 would be in front. And then I was like, well, now I got to go back and look and see where Aunt Yola's at. And she's sitting 3rd. And she's never done that in her races, really. She hasn't been the greatest of gate horses on the dirt, but on the turf, she jumped out of there and was right there in great position. And she obviously liked it. So we'll see how it goes on from here.
What's the game plan for her? You have anything planned?
She's got a race next week, next Friday. We enter for next Friday.
Back on the turf.
Back on the turf.
Yes. Staying sprinting?
Yes. Yeah, we'll just stay sprinting, and then we'll make adjustments according from there. So actually, Kendrick worked her this morning, and he was happy with her.
Excellent. Wanted to take a look at another one from a little bit earlier in the meet, 26 Black. This is on July 12th. 26 Black is going to be the number 4 horse in here. Again, another nail biter, neck, nose. You get the neck victory for 26 Black. This is a nice little runner. This was the 4th win in 8 career starts. When you can win at a 50% rate, you got to be very happy. But talk a little bit about the performance of 26 Black.
Yeah, I was surprised to see him so far back, and it looked like Manny had to work on him a little bit to try to stay with the field. But then again, it was jumping up in conditions, and he had a hard race here on Belmont weekend. So when I saw that happen, I thought maybe he was going to run a little bit flat just from that effort. But Manny said the other horses were just fast, and he's a fast horse. He usually was close to the pace, but I've never seen him so far back and be able to close like that. He's a very honest horse, though. Very, very cool, very chill.
It did spend most of the race at the back of the pack.
Yeah, and he's very, very honest, always tries. He was actually Be Your Best workmate when they came in as 2-year-olds. They both developed well, and he debuted well here when he had his first race. And he seems to just be kind of grown into himself now. He's nice and strong, and he's always been competitive.
So now it's sitting at the back of the pack, and again, he's been a little more prominent in some of the early. Now, do you tell it, going forward, is that kind of the strategy? Hey, maybe he likes to sit back, or do you leave it up to the
I just
jockey?
leave it up to Manny.
Yeah.
Manny's rode him every time, and he's done well with him. So, these guys, you don't really have to tell them too much. And sometimes I would have never expected him to be that far back, but Manny didn't panic, and he knew what he had underneath him.
Will we see that one?
Possibly here at the end of the meet.
Okay.
Yeah. Just want to make sure, because he's jumping through conditions. And they're getting, the waters get deeper. So you just want to make sure he's fully charged.
And that is one of the things that, I always talk people, fans, it's a good place up at Saratoga to talk about that. Conditions are so important because trainers come up here often and they're cool at the beginning. Why? They ran out of the conditions with their horses at the previous meet.
Yeah.
Or you come up here hot, all the conditions are right there. And I don't think people realize from a trainer looking through that condition book, sometimes it all matches up and sometimes not so much.
Yeah, it's like that during Belmont weekend, I had that Philly Striker has style in the A other than.
Yeah.
And she won her maiden impressive at Laurel. She didn't really beat anything. And when I saw that race, I was like, oh, this is a great spot, this filly. And she'll kind of come under the radar. And when the overnight came out, Ways and Means was in there. And I was like, talk about conditions. You didn't realize she still had that condition. We ran second to her, which, we knew that she was going to be tough to beat. And she's a very nice filly. But you don't realize what horses have conditions until you come to Saratoga. And
that is a very good example of that story. Of like, oh, hey, we're going to fit right into this. And then you have to open up the entries. Like, oh.
That horse still has that condition. Jeez. We thought it already won 5 races.
And I wanted to pull up a little stakes race going back to the early part of July and just catch up Nightcap. We're going to look at the number 6 horse here. And again, this is the Dashing Beauty down at Delaware, the beginning of last month. She's got plenty of experience and plenty of winning experience. This was win number 12 in start number 23. So she's a very talented runner as well. Talk a little bit about the stakes win here. And will we see Nightcap at some point?
She's obviously, we claimed her and she seemed very competitive on form. Most of her form been down there in Florida and Tampa. Good looking filly. We got her. Obviously, when you claim horses, you try to find areas that you can improve them. Seems like we found a little spot, with her shoeing to be able to help her move forward. And it was a last minute decision to enter in that race because we supplemented into it.
That worked out.
Yeah, and actually, really what we did with her, we put glue-on shoes on her, and it seemed to really move her forward. And it was like Ian McKinley came in on a Monday, shot her, and Tuesday we watched her train, and it was like night and day.
That's interesting.
And then we went ahead and entered and talked to the owner. Daryl's, he's pretty game about taking a chance on things, and we actually had a wave of runners run at Laurel, and I'm mostly based at Belmont during the weekends, and I was there, and I told my guys, this is why I don't like to be here, because we got our butts kicked pretty good. So I was like, they run better when I'm not around. And so the race ran on a Sunday, and I was driving back up to Belmont, and the owner asked me, Daryl, he's like, are you going to go to the race? I'm like, no, I'm going straight to Belmont. She can run without me. Because we were like high odds too. It ended up being a tougher race than what we thought it was going to be. So he went ahead and drove down for the race, and we ended up getting Flavian to ride her. And like I said, the filly always showed speed before, and she was down there back at the pack, and but she just knows how to win basically, and was able to run them down.
Yeah, it was a nice victory there off the claim, and as you say, maybe a late decision. So that, but any plans coming up for Nightcap?
We have her nominated down there at Charlestown. We're going to see how tough that race comes up, and then just trying to, see after Saratoga, see where we kind of maybe get her back over to Aqueduct and see how she fits up there with New York horses.
Got have to feel good though. Nice claim. You get a claim and come back in a stakes race.
Yeah, and with a filly like that, she had no conditions. So, and I told him we made some adjustments. I like to run her protected once, but obviously when you do that, you go into deep waters. So then on paper, you're like, do we really fit here? But I was like, I don't want to lose her and then her go on and do something else. At least give her one try.
How do you make that glued-on shoe decision? Is that you? Is your farrier involved? How do you?
This one was my veterinarian in Maryland. She was very adamant that you probably should do this. And we already had a few horses with glue-ons, and they're expensive. So,
Okay.
So it's kind of like, then talk to the owner, and, he was like, all right, let's go ahead and do it and see what it does. At least give it a chance.
That's interesting. And clearly a good move.
That was definitely, yeah. Another experiment that went well. Yeah.
And you're right. Being a handicapper, I often see those experiments. I'll take my shot with, well, this is an experiment, but I'll go with this one today. And then next day I come in and say, experiment failed. So
yeah, there's plenty of those.
When they go well, that's always a bonus.
Yes.
Horacio, appreciate the visit. And again, always happy to talk to a neighbor. So we're happy you stopped in. And again, you're having a great meet. Keep it up here and going forward for the rest of the year. But we appreciate the visit.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Horacio De Paz, again, nice meet and the nice win in the Susie O'Kane just the other day. And looking forward to the runners on the rest of the meet as well. All right, we'll take a break. Mike NcAdams is in the house. We'll talk a little bit what was out on the workout situation this morning. I guess some of the Travers workers' schedule didn't make it, but we'll talk about that and much more. Keith McCalmont a little bit later to take a look at the King's Plate and more with Keith. All of that when Racing Across America continues. Stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Hey, it's our friend Mike NcAdams. You check him out daily, little horse racing coverage throughout the Saratoga meet in the Daily Gazette. Mike, good morning.
Thanks for having me, Seth, as always.
Happy to have you. And you tweeted fog lifting for workouts, and I talked to you yesterday. I talked to Keith McCalmont yesterday, and both of you were anticipating watching some Travers workers this morning, but it didn't quite work out that way.
It turned into a big fat nothing burger, as these things tend to do. Dornock and Fierceness were both scheduled to breeze at 7 o'clock on the main track. By the time I got here at about 20 to 7, 6:30 or so, we had already found out that Dornock got rescheduled for Saturday, And then so we're like, okay, at least we can get fierceness. I had my photographer Erica Miller was here. She has a day job and a real job, but she kind of accommodates the early stuff when we need it. So I went over to Todd Pletcher's barn and I figured out which one was fierceness and followed him over to the track. And I told Erica, that's him right there. So keep an eye on that one. And I think she actually missed the horse because we were expecting a breezing horse to come flying. We were over at the half-mile pole. And instead, I see this horse in black helmet, black long-sleeve shirt, black vest. And it's like, white bridle. I think that's him, but he's not going very fast. And so I was able to, like, just at the last second kind of get a little, lame video of him going by at a gallop. But so we'll be back at it tomorrow. We were kind of hoping that the two of them would go today because we got a couple more we want to get tomorrow's, so it could spread out a little bit. But in the meantime, it's going to be chaos at 7 o'clock tomorrow. So, but we're used to that.
And do you know, were they doing turf workouts today? Or
no? I don't know.
Because usually it's Friday and Sunday, but with the weather.
Yeah, what time do they start them? Because
they usually don't start those until about 10.
Correct, and I was out of Dodge by then, so. So if they did, I didn't see it.
But I'm curious because
because they did take 2 races off today,
it'll
right?
be insane this weekend.
Yeah.
But and that weather yesterday was because the morning was like this, and it was like this really until the storm. There's huge bolts of lightning that were probably right back there at Clare Court yesterday.
I saw a massive one over there.
Yeah. Then the rainstorm hit, and I pulled up the radar, and it was just a little dot over Saratoga, and then it hung for a little bit and blew out, but it was enough to knock out.
That was a classic Saratoga cloud burst, lightning, thunder, world ending for about 15, 20 minutes. Unlike last Friday when everybody knew Tropical Storm Debbie was going to do her thing on Friday, so you could kind of see it coming. This one was just one of those ones that just comes flying in there when you least expect it. And, fortunately, it didn't last long enough, I think, to have a lot of, even though we got 2 races off today, they can get turf works in.
It was actually raining during the Rick Violet, but that's it. It just started, so they got that off. And people were commenting, I don't keep track of that, but they're saying, man, every year with the Rick Violet gets rained on. So,
well, and speaking of the weather, that's kind of ironically, that's what happened to us this morning, because the reason Dornoch and Fierceness were supposed to breeze this morning was because they were trying to get ahead of Saturday's weather, and then they get here at 5 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden the Saturday forecast looks great. So they said, okay, we'll call an audible and we'll go on Saturday, but we don't find that out until we get here. But that's the way it works.
I will say Kenny McPeak's been fun and keeping up with the fans.
Absolutely.
When Torpedo Anna is going to come out. It's been early. He changed up one day, but it was understandable. I think that was weather related, but he's also alerted people, hey, she's going to work in the school in the paddock or whatnot. I kind of appreciate that.
It's amazing. I give him a ton of credit for that. And I tweeted it out, and it got liked like 150 times or something when they schooled her in the paddock last week. Now, he tweeted it out again that they're going out at 7 tomorrow morning, and they're actually going to walk her up the horse path to the paddock and out onto the track instead of going through the gap on Union Avenue to kind of give her one more look at the lay of the land. I don't know if they're going to. I wouldn't be surprised if they schooled her again in the paddock during the races next week at some point. But for tomorrow's purposes, they'll be on the main track at 7. She usually goes out at 5:30, and that's her thing, and he's stuck to that. But we're to the point in the meet where it's dark out at 5:30 in the morning, and that was compounded by some fog that we had on both the Oklahoma and the Maine this morning. So that's why you're starting to see 7 instead of 5:30, because Dornoch is totally a 5:30, but he's going at 7. And then the other one we're looking for tomorrow is Sierra Leone, supposed to go on the Oklahoma at 7:30. So we'll be around for that.
Torpedo Anna has been a fun story, obviously, with me, the Coaching Club American Oaks victory, and then Kenny McPeak kind of, well, let me see, and then makes the announcement on the Fox show. It was that significant. And I don't know how she's going to do. Let me see the past performances actually come out for the Travers, but I think it turned out making both races today or tomorrow's Alabama and the Travers interesting storylines for sure. And in the Alabama, probably a better betting race.
Absolutely. You got 8 horses in there. Clear favorite is Candied, on paper, checks a lot of boxes, but you got an 8-horse field. Some of them are making a big step up, but it's kind of if Torpedo Anna's not going to be in there, worst thing that can happen is maybe we'll get a 3rd place check or something like that, which, is okay. going back to the choice between Alabama and Kenny had mentioned that as one of the reasons, not one of the reasons he did it, but one of the scenarios that would have been created if they went. I mean, you might have seen a 3 or 4 horse field, and she's 1-9 on the morning line, and rightfully so. And it just would have, it would have been kind of a disaster. It would have been a public workout kind of thing for Torpedo Anna. Nobody wants to see that in a Grade 1, historic race like this. So the Travers got better, Alabama got better, and everybody wins.
Yeah, he kind of said that right after the Coaching Club American Oats in the Winter Circle. He's like, come on, nobody's going to show up for the Alabama. The bettors don't want that. The fans don't want that.
Just the fact that he would be aware of that and verbalize it is kind of unique. You don't hear guys worrying about the bettors very often, or at least not, saying so.
Yeah, it was fun. It's interesting to hear. I was looking down your Twitter last night, and well, again, going back and kind of reflecting on the meet, next, I think, was one of the better performances of the meet in the Birdstone. And you had the quote, somebody said, hey, aim for the Classic. And the trainer says, Breeders' Cup or Charleston?
It was a good spur of the moment little move by him. And I didn't catch this part, but apparently somebody else tweeted that they were chanting Classic, or BC Classic or something like that. And so I don't know what they're going to do with that horse. Everybody wants to see him in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And what are you afraid of is the easy question to send to that camp. But he's such a clearly dominating as a specialist at the longer stuff, but there's not a lot of races that are longer than 1.5 miles on the dirt. And so their options are limited if they're going to stay cubby hold like that. And he also made the point that they want to race him for a couple more years. And if they start banging him in these 1.25 mile races, it's going to wipe him out a little bit more quickly, I guess, in his career. So there's that aspect to it, but man, everybody's salivating. But it was a pretty funny little exchange.
Charlestown, which class?
I think he's used to that question, so he probably might have used that answer before. He might have judged that one out of the catalog.
And it will be interesting to see. I have no argument with them just picking their marathon spots and picking up some money. The horses at gelding, so I have but I had Dave Grenigan the other day, and he made the interesting point that I hadn't even thought of. The next logical is that Greenwood, I think, down at Parks, the marathon. But given he's so talented, what if not enough horses show up?
I saw that interview, and in fact, Dave asked the trainer that after the race. He said, I mean, if you go to that race and only 2 show up, I mean, how's that?
Maybe they don't go with it. And so then he's
it might not even fill. Yeah. And you don't have any. Yeah. Then you don't have a race. So there's some tricky things going on with that horse, but one thing's for certain: everybody wants to see him get into like a real legit Grade 1 field at 1.25 miles and maybe work backwards from the Breeders' Cup Classic or something like that. But they, at least try it. That's what people are really clamoring for.
It was fun. Like I say, it was one of the highlights of the meet. There have been a number. Arthur's Ride has looked good in a handicap division that's maybe a little lacking. The fierceness was the old fierceness in the Jim Dandy. What will we get in the Travers, as he is a complete enigma? And just going back to the weekend, Carson's Run in the Saratoga Derby for West Point. That was an emotional win. That was a nice win, too.
Yeah, it's a pretty good story. That's sort of assumed the Cody's Wish role of this year. So, in fact, somebody might have been Terry Finley or somebody last year said, kind of made the comparison a little bit. So that's a good story. As far as fierceness, man, a friend of mine said, I'm so happy he won the Jim Dandy in convincing fashion so that I can bet against him in the Travers, and said the same thing 2 races back. So, but we'll see. The horse we'll see tomorrow how he works. He's been training lights out. Maybe he just needed to get a little deeper into his 3-year-old season to kind of figure it out a little bit. But the talent is there. That's undeniable.
Yeah, when he shows up, he's phenomenal.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like a light bulb that goes on and off. Or a switch. Hard to explain.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen the yin and yang quite as prominent as that one.
And Todd Pletcher has said that some of his losses, like it's certainly at least one of them last year, or I think The Holy Bull, I think he mentioned, it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. You know, that's the trainer kind of protecting the reputation of his horse, maybe a little bit. So maybe there is some truth to that. But man, he's going to be an interesting horse to look at August 24th.
And I'm interested also to see how the odds shake out, because I think legitimately Dornoch with his number of stakes wins so far, I think he's legitimately kind of at the top of the class now. But Fierceness has such talent when he shows up, and then Torpedo Anna. I'll be interested to see where the betting public goes.
Funny you should mention that, because I vote on the NTRA national poll every week, and I actually had Dornoch. I actually kicked him out of the top 10.
Oh, okay.
Because I had other horses to get in there, but also because I thought Fierceness canceled him out a little bit. So from the 3-year-old crop, yeah, they're the two you're looking at, not counting Torpedo Anna, which I have on number one all the way to the top. But I think I was like, I only have 10 slots here. I can't keep Dornoch and not put Fierceness in there as well. So I kind of, it's sort of like when votes cancel each other out kind of thing. And there were other ones that had recency that I kind of snuck in there. But that's a little bit of a reflection of how Fierceness, Jim Dandy, kind of got him back toward the upper top of the division a little bit.
I said, I'm interested to see where the betting public goes there. All right, we got a couple of stakes today. When you sat down, you said you took a look at, and maybe some side stories as well to keep our eyes on this afternoon. Second race today is the Skidmore, 5.5. They're still on the grass. Again, 7 and 11 are off, but the Skidmore is on. A quick 5.5 furlongs in the Skidmore. I went with Governor Sam, has the proven talent in here. And you, when you sat down, you said maybe there's a little story tied in with that one.
Well, and I picked Governor Sam too, and he seems like a no-brainer, but the story writes itself if that horse wins, because trainer George Weaver's been sitting on 999 career wins since early in the meet and has been waiting, and it would be kind of fitting and probably a cool moment for him, not only to get the 1,000, but also do it in a stakes race. So there'd be kind of like a double thing going on there.
That would be two of those situations with Kathleen O'Connell getting the win up here in Saratoga for 2,500.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting.
So as reporters, it makes our job a lot easier. We're not supposed to root for anybody, but if George Weaver wins this race, we'll be okay with that.
And again, nice little side storyline there, and that's what Saratoga is all about.
And he's got some other ones in there. He's got some maidens and stuff, but if he did it in a stakes race, it just kind of adds that little extra.
No question about it. And it was the Kathleen O'Connell I talked about a couple of days ago. That was interesting. She's the top female trainer with all-time wins, so that adds up. But she's not based up here at all. She just brought this one horse up, and at 25-1 with Dylan Davis, who's scoring at the price. 25-1 gets win number 2,500.
There's a lot going on there in typical fashion. Whenever Dylan, wins a stakes race and he's coming back to the winner's circle with Maggie on the TV show or something, he always goes out of his way to mention that he graduated from Saratoga Springs High School right up the street. So that added another layer to the whole story.
And he added to his story this week with the Carson's Run victories. Right. First grade 1 in America.
Only because he did have a grade 1 up at Woodbine, but he mentioned very clearly that, and Keith can probably expand on this, but that it was his first grade 1 in New York and in the United States. Yeah. And I looked it up, and I was like, really? And I don't know how or where I dug it up. I noticed he won the summer with can't remember who won it, but that's that's over the border just barely.
Wouldn't surprise me if that was a West Point runner too, because they often go up for that stakes race.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but
so again, that was a fun side story on the week as well. All right, also today the Union Avenue. This is for the ladies going 3/4 mile. I thought Tricky Temper, the horse to beat is Lilo, but I thought Tricky Temper off the last race for Jeremiah was interesting.
You're speaking my language, because that's who I picked in the paper this morning. You'll excuse me because I can't read the performance lines with these glasses, or I can, but I got to hold it a little farther back. I think my logic was this, posted a pretty good number last time in the allowance race, has a win over the track. You get Flavian Prat, Jeremiah Englehart's having a terrific meet. Yeah. So there's some reasons to like him. And if you can get 4-1, even better. Maybe you won't, but Lilu is the legit, favorite. Hasn't won since February, but has been running against better company. Was fourth in the grade 3 winning colors. So it's kind of a little bit of a step down for her in class. But I'm taking a little bit of a swing with Tricky Temper, like yourself.
I like Tricky Temper in this
Yeah.
spot. And if the 4-1 holds up, I think it's a fair price as well.
Yep.
Mike, appreciate the visit.
Absolutely.
Always enjoy having you sit in with us. And we haven't made Keith as well. We haven't made our usual. I have been down a couple of times already.
Not with me, though. And I don't know. I've been kind of laying low, but that might have to change on Sunday.
Right.
There's a couple things going on, and that
right.
might be the kind of the punctuation to the
That's right.
the end of the week.
Speaking
for
of our
us.
normal Caroline Street, certainly, the tradition has to continue.
Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
I was gonna.
Desperate Annie's down on Caroline Street. That's sort of our. We gravitate. The gravitational pull of Desperate Annie's is powerful. But let's put it that way.
All true. All right,
Keith can speak to that.
Mike, we appreciate the visit, and we will talk again.
All right, thank you, Seth.
All right, coming up, Keith McCalmont again. Now with Naira, but when we first met up, we were up at Woodbine. He was up there for a while, and he's a Canadian, so who better to talk about the King's Plate? We'll get some thoughts on the King's Plate, some of the undercard races. We'll talk a little Saratoga with Keith as well. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Why just watch the races when you can be in the middle of the action? For nearly 20 years, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program has made thoroughbred ownership affordable for the everyday fan. Ownerships of 5 and 10% are now available on a nice selection of horses. As a partial owner with Bonaventure Stables, you'll enjoy all the benefits afforded every owner. Visit with your horse in the private stable area. Greet the trainers and jockeys in the paddock. And when your horse wins, savor the moment in the winner's circle at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, or wherever you bring home the prize. Based in historic Saratoga Springs, Bonaventure Stables has been training winners and creating memories since 2005. Learn more, see available horses, and meet our team at bonaventurestables.com.
Welcome back. As promised before the break, it's our friend Keith McCalmont. Again, originally latched on to Keith and his knowledge up at Woodbine. He was there for a while, but has been now for a while in the press office at the New York Racing Association. Keith, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Thanks for having me on. It's always great to come on and talk about the King's Plate, and it's really going to be tough for me to keep saying King's Plate after
I'm surprised I got it right, because I have messed it up a bunch recently. And it's now in a new spot. I got to mic you up. I don't know why they didn't test the mic.
Sure.
It's now in a new spot. We used to go up when it was a Queen's Plate and enjoy it early. They moved it, and I said earlier, seems like they're now settled into this August slot for the King's Plate.
Yeah, I think it gives a lot of the horses time to prepare for going 10 furlongs. And also a lot of these horses now are good enough to compete in the American build-up races. So they need time to go through that campaign. And then if so, have a break before the King's Plate comes around. So I think they're finding a stronger field and 13 horses in this race on Saturday. So it's a very good card.
It, as it typically is. It's not just the King's Plate itself, but the undercard. We'll hit on a few of those, and I will alert people that it was just, I don't know, it was now 3 or 4 years back we had you in here doing this, and man, you nailed a couple on the undercard that were.
Yeah, I got a little lucky with Silent Poet on the undercard
exactly.
a few years back, and we'll see if we can find a little nugget like that here. So
let's start with the King's Plate and kind of work our way back. I pulled up a replay going back to the Marine. We're going to take a look at number 5, Essex Serpent. That one going out for Mark Casse, who is red hot here, and he's red hot as he typically is up at Woodbine. He has a number of horses on the card that are serious players. But this one winning the Marine. There are also some horses coming out of the plate trial that are very interesting, including My Boy Prince for Mark Casse. Mark is loaded in here. But what did you see in the King's Plate?
Yeah, you've landed on my pick here in Essex Serpent. I really like the way he finished off this race. Great Thing Marine is open company. So when you're reading through this form, the King's Plate is restricted to Canadian-bred 3-year-olds. So you really want to take a look through the past performances and see who's been competing against who. The Great Thing Marine being open company. The runner-up in that race was a Brendan Walsh horse named Cameo Performance. Came back and won the Dueling Grounds Derby preview at Ellis Park. It's a very talented horse, and I think Essex Serpent really dealt with that foe well. He wants the added distance that he's going to get in this race, and his stablemate, My Boy Prince, is going to be the favorite. But I think this one is more of a one-turn type horse. When you go through My Boy Prince's past performances, his best buyer figures are in sprint company. So I think he's winning a lot of these 2-turn races on class and just the speed carrying for him. 1.25 miles can be a real difference maker at every level. So let's see who can finish this race off or not.
Yeah, and again, Mark is just having a phenomenal summer all around. And I'll ask you as well, speaking of the King's Plate, how about Moira winning the Beverly D the other day?
Yeah, this is like one of the best things about this race is that it's Mark Casse, Hall of Fame trainer, and Kevin Atchard. They've got, I believe, 7 horses between the two of them in this race, 3 for Mark, 4 for Kevin Atchard. Seth alluding to last weekend, 2 Canadian Horses of the Year compete in the Beverly D. Moira for Kevin Atchard gets up at the wire to beat Fev Rover for Casse. Those two are going to renew that rivalry in the EP Taylor in September. I believe you guys are going up for that.
Yeah.
And they're 1-2 in the trainer standings at Woodbine. People here in New York are very familiar with Mark Casse. He's got his barn here. But now that NYRA has announced that we're going to have a synthetic surface at the new Belmont Park as an inner track coming into the 2026 campaign, Kevin is very interested in bringing a string here full time. So I think we're going to see a lot more of Kevin Atchard and his connections in New York.
Oh, that's interesting. Because certainly the Canadian trainers have become more prominent in the winter down at Gulfstream with the synthetic down there.
Yeah, that's the prominent route for Canadian trainers is to head down to Palm Meadows and race a little bit at Gulfstream before making their way back up to Canada. But I think perhaps the synthetic surface will give horses an option for maybe a couple starts at the end of the year or maybe an earlier startup up here as well.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's go a little earlier. The Catch a Glimpse. This one is for the 2-year-old fillies going 6.5 on the turf. I pulled up a replay of, I think all of my replays are Mark Casse, which I didn't realize when I originally looked, but it's Bullet, number 7 horse tomorrow in the race, and the number 7 in this replay we're looking at, going back to July 13th. Number 7 Bullet will win the My Deer Stakes, and for Casse tomorrow in the Catch a Glimpse. Looks awfully good there. But again, as it is typical of 2-year-old stakes races this time of year, they've all shown some talent.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a big field, but I do think there's 2 singles within these multi-race sequences, and Bullet is one of them. This is a classy $425,000 purchase. The second dam is Grade 1 winning Millionaire Surfside. She won the Santa Anita Oaks, the Frizette, and more. There's a lot of depth to the family, and you just saw the replay of how she won that race. I think she outclasses that field and is certainly one of possibly back-to-back singles, because Philo Di Ariana in the King Edward is essentially using a Grade 2 race as a prep for the Woodbine Mile next month. So you've got a couple horses that you can key on as you put your multi-race sequences together. Jumping around a little bit here,
I will just say I do have a replay of Philo Di Ariana,
Sure.
so we can take a look at that one. Going to be the number 6 horse in here in the Highlander, and yeah, I thought looked pretty good in the race, the 9th at Woodbine, which, as you say, in the sequence may be a little bit interesting. Or is Philo in the 8th?
It's in race 8.
Yeah, race 8, which is the stakes race. The 9th is a non-stakes race in that sequence, but the 8th is the King Edward, and again, Philo Di Ariana going out for Mark Cassian, as you can see there, won on June 29th in the Highlander, and comes in off of that victory. And again, you're saying a couple of singles, and you know what? I can't really disagree. They're both nice fields, but these horses look pretty good, and Cassie's just going so well.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Cassie and Attard winners tomorrow. The race that I'm looking at to try and catch a price is actually earlier in the sequence, both the Soaring Free and the Bold Venture. I think there's opportunities there. Race like the Bold Venture, which is race 7, 6.5 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up. Patches O'Houlihan is sort of the now horse, has a massive triple-digit buyer last out. And I was speaking briefly with Ron Gearkink of the Daily Racing Forum up at Woodbine yesterday, and he thinks this one is perhaps a bounce candidate for this race.
Well, the number does have the look of a little bit of an aberration, so I could see that.
Yeah. I think this one might bounce off that rubber track, and could set things up for either Play Me a Tune or I'm a Gambler. Play Me a Tune is a Chiefswood homebred by McLean's Music, and out of a graded stakes winner. It's a deep family, undefeated, lightly raced, but speed could set up for that one. And I'm a Gambler is making its second start for Kevin Attard. Last out, came to Woodbine and tried synthetic for the first time, aced that test. So we know the horse likes the surface. Let's see what it can do against some tougher company. I think both of those are an option at a price to try and beat Patches O'Houlihan and make the sequence pay a little something.
Interesting. Gets the apprentice sticks on board, but the apprentice is having a pretty good season, Moran.
Petra Moran, David Moran's son.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And as I say, having a pretty good season. I like the confidence they stick with him even in the stakes race. So maybe a little bit of a price there, as you say, going against the favorite. That I agree could be a little bit vulnerable because that triple-digit buyer does kind of stand out. So I would think a bounce is possible. Soaring Free is the 6th race, 6.5 on the grass for the 2-year-olds in here. Field of 9 scheduled. What did you see in the Soaring Free?
Mentz is going to be the favorite in here, 2-1 on the morning line, and certainly an obvious horse to use.
A smart pick. Hey,
I got to go.
I don't blame you.
I think this is one of those situations where people on Twitter like to talk about the other Baffert, the other Chad, and this might be a case of the other Cassie at Woodbine. Kaz Kamura's back home to ride Dream On. This is a not this time horse who, beat a horse who went out to graduate next out at Ellis Park. I think this horse fits. 10-1 morning line probably doesn't stick because of the connections, but a very, very good option to beat the favorite there, who is trying turf for the first time. So will that horse like that surface? Hard to say. I think there's reasons to take a shot against it. The other one that's interesting to keep an eye on is the Graham Motion horse Test Score, who is a maiden, but was beat here last out by Governor Sam, who runs in the Skidmore later this afternoon. So keep an eye on that race this afternoon and see if that might help frank the form of Test Score.
That's a great point. Get a little barometer maybe through Governor Sam, but I think that horse is live. And yeah, Mensa, morning line favorite, but as you say, tries to surface in the buyer numbers and jumping off the page and all, but you get Mark Cassie tied on, you're going to get a little bit less of a price. But the other Cassie, I totally agree with you. I think that's an interesting looking play to maybe start things out in the guaranteed pick 5 with a little bit of an interesting. I will remind people up there, 20-cent increments on your picks. I like that. You can jump in and kind of spread around a little bit, still keep things reasonable, and if you get a couple of prices, it still pays.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be big pools tomorrow and big fields, so people are going to want to spread in the King's Plate. There you go. I almost said Queen's Plate. People are going to want to spread in that race a little bit, but I think you can really narrow down the sequence and make it worthwhile.
And as I say, we wanted to get you in here being a Canadian and all the time you spent up in Woodbine, but you're a Saratoga guy now, and so let's get some thoughts on the weekend stakes or tomorrow's stakes up here. First, I'll ask if you agree. I think when Kenny McPeak made the decision to go to the Travers, it made that an more interesting race perhaps with her in, but it made for a better Alabama, certainly.
Yeah, I think if Torpedo Anna stays in this race, we're looking at a 4-horse field and a 4-horse field of horses she's already soundly beaten. What a sportsman to do what he's done and try and do something historic. We haven't seen a filly win the Travers since 1915.
Oh, so, is that right?
Yeah, it's I think 7 have done it previously. The latest to try was Cassie's Wonder Godot in 2018. That didn't work out so well for her. But I think this is a much more seasoned Torpedo Anna. Yeah. And I was actually at her stall this morning. She looks incredible. She's going to walk through the paddock early tomorrow morning, have her final maintenance breeze here on the main track, and hopefully all systems go for next week. Wear your pink for Anna.
Yeah, Mike said about 7 o'clock we'll take the walk over and get the workout. So we'll get the follow-up on her. And I'm not sure until the PPs come out which direction I'm going, whether I'll use her or not. But again, she has a nice storyline certainly to it. Kenny's not afraid to try the fillies against the boys, and oftentimes successfully. So looking forward to it.
Worked with Swiss Skydiver, and he's taken some shots in a lot of races. Got to be in it to win it, right? So.
Absolutely. So now with the Torpedo Anna less Alabama, 1.25 miles for the fillies. Candide coming out of the nice second place finish behind Torpedo Anna in the Coaching Club American Oaks seems logical. I'm tilting there, but I thought Miss Justified coming out of the Wilton victory was certainly playable. What do you think in the Alabama?
Yeah, I think Candide's the logical one. A lot of Grade 1 races on her resume. Yeah. Does she want 1.25 miles? I think there's reasons to play against that horse. On the rail, you've got Intricate for Brendan Walsh, who is starting to round back into form a little bit. I think Brendan has said that she'll appreciate the 10 furlongs and has the distinction of being the only horse that's ever beaten Torpedo Anna. So there's a little bit of interest there, but this feels like a very wide open race to me. Just Baskin comes in for Ian Wilkes with a pretty lofty number off the Oaks win there. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can go. I'm going to take a shot with Brendan Walsh on the rail, and Tyler Gaffleon's been riding really well. Won 10 races here last week. So
I really liked her, after the 2-year-old season, and then I had talked to Brendan right after the Rachel Alexandra, and he said, yeah, that was a good way to start the season. And then she just hasn't quite put it together yet, but as you say, given the numbers and whatnot, she may be moving in the right direction. I agree that she is interesting on Saturday tomorrow in the Alabama. Just before that, the Lake Placid, 1 1/16 on the grass for the 3-year-old fillies. I used the Cherie DeVoe runner. She feels pretty. I'm not thrilled with the price because I think it's fairly competitive. Looking for a better price, Chad and Klarovich with dynamic pricing. But Spaladay for Chad Brown at 12-1. I think that horse is really playable coming off the win down in Monmouth in the stakes race.
So you're giving me the 2-1 favorite and 3 Chads in a turf race, huh? I'm going to go in a different direction here. I agree with you. She Feels Pretty is a deserving morning line favorite. She was a close third to Cinderella's Dream in the Belmont Oaks. That one came back to win the Spa Oaks, and the cutback makes sense. There's a lot of reasons why this horse is a deserving favorite. I spent this morning watching replays of Clement's stateside debuter, Les Rays, and go back if you can and watch this horse win the Prix de Bel Air at 6.5 on soft turf at Longchamp. Dead last, top of the lane, eased out about 15 wide and gobbles them up without being asked. Incredible run. Comes back going a mile, same track, pre-Volterra, and a nice listed stake. Again, back of the pack, eased out, makes a huge run, gobbles them up. This is a horse who's got versatility to go different distances, different types of ground. My only concern would be if she's that far back in a European race, how far back is she going to get here in the US where things tend to go a little quicker early? So I'm hoping Joelle can get this one out into a good position and come with the run. The other one, we seem to be talking a lot about Brendan Walsh here. Proctor Street, undefeated, 2 rallying wins, a nose and a head. Last out beat Greyosh, coming from 10th, last of 10. And this horse is super well bred by Street Sense out of Proctor's Ledge, who won the Lake George and the Lake Placid here for these same connections 5-6 years ago now. So there's a lot of really good breeding there. And everything on paper says she has the talent. It's just a matter of, will there be pace there to set up that kick?
Yeah, it has to step it up, I think, in the third career start. But in the third career start, that is possible. And you're going to get the odds to take that shot. I think Galabrand, to me, is a horse that started the career here at Saratoga and showed some real promise and hasn't quite lived up to it. But the numbers are kind of going in the right direction. The first 2, Pilmont, it makes that one intriguing at 20-1 on the morning line. So I think it's a fun race. Again, I went with She Feels Pretty, but put the Charlie Appleby horse down at the bottom of my mix. And as you were talking about, Clemence Laray's, that one is intriguing to me. Now I have to double think about this one.
It's always good. And I do believe in our notes yesterday we reported that Deep Satin was going to scratch from this race. So that unfortunately may take a little bit of pace out of here, but we'll see how this one plays out tomorrow because there's only long shots setting this up. So
yeah, it looks good. Fun card. One of the highlights of the meet, obviously, Alabama Day. One of the highlights of coverage of the meet. Keith McCalmont and Naira Press Office, and I'm sure I appreciate your recap every day. I bring that in and refer to the notes that are on there, the standings and whatnot. You guys do a great job there, but a great job with the notes as well. Just to let people know what's involved in that. You and the press office team, you put out, if you go to the Naira website and click on the news link, there's plenty of coverage of what's coming up, what has already happened, but what gets involved in that because it starts early and ends late.
Yeah, this morning being a good example, we had 3 or 4 Travers horses that were expected to work, who ultimately many of them ended up moving to tomorrow. But myself, Marietti, Christian Abdo, and our intern Nick DeMore are out here early mornings, following graded horses around, covering their workouts, getting comments from the trainers each day. We're there in the afternoon, post-race quotes, getting recaps, putting advances together, and that all goes up on the website at naira.com. A lot of great info in there and a lot of between the lines, behind the scenes type stuff that when you're handicapping, you'll want to know whether it's a horse ahead of time that's going to scratch or perhaps somebody who's worked in company with another horse that has now done well. And it sort of franks the form a little bit and makes you want to maybe put a little extra on a horse. A little shout out to Nick DeMore, our intern this summer. He's connected with Sienna Farm, and they are the co-owners of Caitlin Her Greatness, who was filly supplemented to the King's Plate on Saturday. 38 fillies have won the King's Plate. Could Sienna Farm's Caitlin Her Greatness be the next one?
Including the aforementioned Moira, who was a nice winner, certainly. And yeah, that over the years. And one of the fun things up there, too, the Canadian Triple Crown, that I like 3 different surfaces, which I think makes that an intriguing triple. What we do has its own challenges, but that had some challenges there. Fort Erie back to Woodbine, synthetic dirt and turf for the Canadian Triple Crown.
It's a unique experience, and if you haven't been to Woodbine, it's not that long a drive from Saratoga, and it's well worth the trip, whether it's Saturday or for Woodbine Mile Weekend.
Yeah, we'll be up there covering Woodbine Mile Weekend, and I always say the same thing. You pop up the thruway, you take a right turn at Buffalo, and you're kind of there. It's a few hours, but it's an easy drive. And if you schedule it right, you can maybe make a Fort Erie stop, or if you schedule it right, maybe an overnight, you get to Finger Lakes, and you drive by a few tracks there. A few years back, I made the stop at Fort Erie, and that was kind of fun, too. It has the unique jungle-like infield.
Yeah, the border oval is a beautiful place to be, and hop over the border and grab some wings with Gene Kirshner in Buffalo.
There you go. Exactly. Who I think is going to be in town this upcoming Travers Week. Looking forward to that as well. Keith, appreciate the visit. Some insight into tomorrow's really, really nice Kings Plate card up at Woodbine. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Seth.
All right, we'll wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America on a Friday morning, which looks to be leading into a really nice Friday afternoon. Some nice steak action today, leading into a really nice steak action tomorrow. Don't forget the Pick 3 bankroll opens up about an hour or so. Put your name in the hat for that and see if you can get on the Pick 3 bankroll team for Sunday. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up here, but back in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for handicapper support, 10 a.m. for Racing Across America. We'll see you then.
Turn your love of racing into savings with equine discounts through the NTRA. Purchase through equine discounts and receive great savings on well-known brands like John Deere, Sherwin-Williams, Big Ass Fans, Farmers Insurance, and Office Depot. Join thousands of other equine members and support companies that give back to the sport we all love. Call 866-678-4289 or visit equinediscounts.com to start saving today.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
You've been watching Racing Across America. Racing Across America has been brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Also brought to you by Wizard Race and Sports.